Hi, I'm Maisie McCabe, UK editor at Campaign. I'm here with Miha Mikek, the CEO and founder of Celtra, and also Matt Pritchard, the global lead digital marketing at GSK Consumer Healthcare. So guys, as brands increasingly focus on mobile advertising, how do you think mobile advertising is changing?
I think we've seen in the last 3 years quite a big change in the space. So we went from this very standard, IB-driven mobile advertising, which was mostly banners and click to landing page experiences. Now recent years was an explosion of kind of formats, creativity, capabilities across applications, but also like across the web. So a couple of trends that we're seeing. So the rise of video, clearly. So video is becoming huge. And I think like the latest trend is really the outstream video, which is video content within basically pages. It's not just pre-rolls and post-rolls, but really autoplay videos within feeds, and that's the fastest growing probably area. The second one is native, so just experiences that are very native to the applications, to the content, that are kind of like more polite, more acceptable, also more engaging. So those are like the two major trends, but we're definitely seeing the move into the right direction. So better user experience altogether, and better creativity.
Yeah, and I think from a brand perspective, we've still a journey to do in terms of where we invest our money. You consider the amount of time consumers spend on their mobile devices, the amount of money we put behind that stream and that channel is still way below where it should be. So from a brand perspective, on top of getting the creative better, we've got to make sure our brand marketeers understand how to use that device to communicate with the consumers. And like I say, over the next year to 18 months, I'm going to see a massive upsurge in terms of the investment we place within the mobile channel.
And so there are any elements of advertising campaigns that are relative to both creative and analytics? What kind of brings those two parts of the industry together, do you think?
That's a big question. I honestly believe it's about the user experience, and our job as advertisers is to create content that consumers want to engage with. So I would always take creativity over just pure data, but I think when you marry creative and data together, it just becomes a win for everyone. It becomes a win for the consumer because they're getting messages and content that are relevant to them, and it's a win for advertisers because we have less wastage because we're talking to the right people about the right things at the right time.
Yeah, I agree. I think the first part was really creating the infrastructure that helps advertisers efficiently at scale, buy the right audiences. So all this data and the piping was absolutely necessary to get the industry up and running. Now we need to do more with data than just buying the audiences. Now we need to use that data to talk to them in a much more relevant way. And so that is part of the user experience, right? So one part is like the visual and how you engage with them and having the right content. But the data should help us really, being super relevant, because mobile is all about relevancy. Anything you do on mobile needs to be contextually relevant. It needs to be, personalized. It needs to be, it's just a completely different set of expectations from consumers than what we've done traditionally on digital.
Are there any sort of common mistakes that you think brands make when they're sort of trying to use mobile?
I think from our perspective, I think the risk you have is that you've got another channel coming into the mix, and you've got pressure to make sure that you're spending your non-working media budgets as effectively and efficiently as you can.
The new buzzword, isn't it?
Absolutely. But I think what happens is the risk is that you just create or adapt what you've done in other channels and don't make it relevant for mobile. And the issue is that consumers' expectations, as Miha said, is so much higher on the mobile, and there's so much more that you can do. You have to see it as a channel, invest in that. Otherwise, in all honesty, you have to ask yourself the question, why am I doing this? So I think it's just one of the new ways that come in. What we have to do is make sure, though, as well as it's contextually relevant, we're thinking from a strategic perspective, what can mobile do? And if you've got it as the heart of the plan, then you create the solution that's going to make it work. And that's the bit that we need to do. Make mobile the heart of the plan, and from there you can expand.
Yeah, mobile dramatically changed the way we consume content, and our lives are mobile now. Like most of our digital lives are mobile. So there's, I don't think there's a successful plan or a strategy without, kind of like the mobile first, strategy and thinking. But I also agree we can't just, migrate old tactics and kind of like strategies, from desktop over to mobile. I think mobile, it's an opportunity to really kind of like, change the way, digital works, because, the kind of like the first part, like trying to get it right on the desktop didn't quite work, I'd say, especially for brand advertising. Digital always worked for the DR stuff more, but brand advertising never really, I think, reached the true potential on the desktop. I think now mobile is offering like a new opportunity for that, and I'm very optimistic and positive about this. I think we're seeing now great great things being actually done on mobile.
Do you think is that different for kind of different ages? Like say the kind of millennials, are they kind of demanding more? Do you think from brands?
From our perspective, I think they don't know a world pre that type of technology, so their expectations are intrinsically higher than other age groups. But I think we run a risk of just saying it's for millennials and those things. Actually, you look at 55-year-old plus people, they're using these devices, they're doing that engagement, they have the same expectation. If I'm there looking for a headache pill, I may well be using my smartphone in the store, and what's that experience? So I don't think that we should limit to a certain age group. I just go back to what's the user experience you're trying to do, and then how do you make that as intrinsic to the user interface of the phone to make it work.
I think that the older generations, they still kind of understand this old kind of like user experience of digital. So when you give them something that's more standard and kind of click to a page, they understand still how that stuff works, because kind of like they got used to it over years like. But when you look at the new generations that kind of like grew up on apps like Snapchat and other stuff, to them this concept is completely foreign, right? Like, okay, now I have like some kind of a static image banner, I'm gonna click out somewhere. I mean, they don't even like click, it's like
they don't see it
because they haven't really used mouse like in the same way as we did like whatever like 10 years ago, right? So I think it's very important for advertising to really adapt, and also to really quickly innovate for the new user experience designs in the applications, and everything is completely different. So and advertising is still for the most part is using this like 90s user experience approach. I'd say like 80% of the advertising that's out there is done exactly the same way that it was like in the 90s, and that has to change more rapidly. So
do you think that's why we've got issues such as ad blocking? Right?
Oh, for sure, yeah, big time. I think this, and also I think programmatic opened the opportunity for publishers to monetize everything to the last impression. So it was all this cascade. So they started premium and then just like going down. And at some point, everyone thought it's a great idea to monetize every single impression, whatever you get. I think this ad blocking now is really forcing everyone to rethink, because you cannot show and sell ads at any given price. So the publishers need to make the decision on how much advertising their users will tolerate, depending on the quality of content, the design, depending on the formats and stuff, and they're responsible to find the right balance.
Yeah,
so
you're absolutely right. From a brand perspective, you don't want to create ads that people want to block. You want to create content that people want to engage with, therefore they're not going to block it. And getting that balance right, I think, is absolutely the publisher alongside the advertiser, because there's no point us creating content that people are then not going to see.
Yeah. I would say for brands that's even better, because when you're a brand, like, you don't want to show the ads to those people who absolutely hate the experience. And so again, I think this is really almost like a relationship needs to play out between a user and a publisher, and I think it's gonna, to a certain degree, really help the market to kind of like establish some kind of fair exchange of paid content versus like the original content.
Yeah, it reminds me of the early 2000s when technology like overlays came on board and we had all the pop-ups. 10 years ago there was the death of desktop advertising. It's not you have to recontract with the publisher, the advertiser and the user, and you will get to that natural balance, but it puts more pressure on the advertiser to create content that's worth watching.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.